They all drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock that accompanied them, and that rock was Christ. Πάντες το αὐτὸ πνευματικόν ἔπιον πόμα, ἔπιον γα εκ πνευματικῆς ἀκολουθούσης, πέτρας, πέτρα δε εν ο Χριστός. The preexistence of Christ. This doctrine establishes the divinity of Jesus Christ, affirming that before his incarnation, he was already spiritually present among God's people. The Apostle Paul identifies the rock that brought forth water in the wilderness as a spiritual rock and states that this rock is Christ. But how could Jesus Christ, as God, be described as a rock of stone? This should be understood as a metaphorical expression of figure of speech. Under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, Paul symbolically connects the rock to Jesus Christ. A metaphor links to seemingly unrelated realities. If the metaphor is innovative, it becomes a creative metaphor. Paul, inspired by the Holy Spirit, introduces this creative metaphor. Only those chosen and called by the Holy Spirit can fully understand this symbolic connection. Although this rock Christ followed the Israelites in the wilderness and provided them with living water, there is a fundamental difference in the New Testament people. The Israelites were baptized into Moses, identifying with him. By contrast, we, the people of the New Testament, receive baptism that unites us with Jesus Christ. While Christ is eternally pre-existent, the grace we receive in the New Testament far surpasses that of the Old Testament people. Indeed, we are baptized into Christ, the Son of God, and not into man like Moses. The possibility of apostasy. In 1 Corinthians 10, Paul explains that although the Israelites in the wilderness were united to Moses and received the living water from Christ, almost the entire first generation perished in the wilderness due to their idolatry despite being delivered from Egypt. Paul recounts this story to warn God's New Testament people that the possibility of apostasy exists, even after being baptized and united with Christ. To avoid following the Israelites' bad example, Paul highlights 4 attitudes to avoid: idolatry, immorality, often linked to cultic practice involving priestesses or virgins dedicated to idols; testing the Lord, doubting God's goodness, power, or wisdom for simple reasons, grumbling or complaining. 1 Corinthians 10, verse 31. Whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Eite un estiete, eite pinete, eite tipoi eite, panta eis doxam theopoiete. A life lived for the glory of God. Paul exhorts the believers to actively seek a life centered on God's glory. This does not only apply to spiritual activities within the church, but also extends to daily life. There is no division between the sacred and the secular. For instance, in Paul's time, best sold in markets often came from sacrifice offered in pagan temples. Eating this meat did not constitute idolatry, but as idols had no real power. However, if someone associated this meat with an idolatrous act, it was important to abstain for the sake of that person's conscience. Living for God's glory means seeking not one's own benefit, but the salvation and well-being of others. Such a life will always avoid the path of apostasy.